Wow. 8 episodes down. A whole season done. Thank you for your subscription, for your participants, for being with us. We don't take that for granted. We appreciate it. Welcome to season 2 of Family with Judy. With me, I have Caroline and Judy, the family lawyer. Judy, what do we have in store for season 2?
Thank you, Ken. I am looking forward to season 2. I hope that we can start with a discussion on succession and estate planning.
It's an interesting topic because I think in prior times, when somebody talks about how your estate will be planned, I feel like you're planning for your death.
You know.
And there's something to that I think if ever you mention anything about estate planning a while back, I'm sure the question has come up, are you trying to kill me?
Oh yes. It's not even a while back. It is now. We are still very conservative about planning our estates or thinking about our estates. So somebody might want to know what the difference between succession and estate planning is. So succession is, like I said, the process by which a person's property is distributed by beneficiaries or whoever it is that is inheriting. Estate planning is about planning how your estate will be inherited, is arranging, is being intentional. And you remember at the beginning of this channel, we said that we hope that the information we give to the people will help them to be more intentional, to be more deliberate about their lives. So I am hoping that when we are done with succession and estate planning, more people will opt to estate plan rather than just have their properties succeeded. So the difference is that in one, there is planning. In estate planning, you plan how your estate will be inherited or distributed. In succession, you wait when the good Lord calls you, or your maker calls you. Whatever happens to your estate happens. Yes, essentially.
And I think one word that I've heard out there is a will.
Yes.
Does a will summarize succession planning?
It's a very good question. So there are several ways in which you can estate plan. And wills is one of them. Okay, so there is wills. Then there is a joint ownership of property. Okay, then there is gifts during your lifetime. Okay, then there is nomination. Then there is trusts. Those are the 5 main ways in which you can estate plan. So we can discuss about that in greater detail later. So if you don't do any of those, then you are left to the law of the land. Then you leave it to the law of the land to determine how your estate will go to your beneficiaries or dependents, as the case may be.
So you mentioned 5 ways of estate planning.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about each of them?
Happily.
Okay.
And I can start with a will. A will is a legal declaration of a person's wishes on how they would like their property or assets inherited upon their demise. A will does not take effect until the demise of the person. As long as they are alive, it's just a piece of paper or pieces of paper. It becomes effective upon their demise. And during their lifetime, they can change that will as they please. They can revoke it by another will. They can tear it up. They can deal with it as they please. And then they can deal with the properties contained in the will as they please. They can sell, they can charge, they can deal with them as they please. Whatever you find after the person's demise is what you find, but nothing stops them from dealing as they wish. Yes. A will can be oral or written. An oral will is basically a spoken will. So you can speak your will, you can speak your wishes, and you can tell people that you wish to have your estate distributed in a certain way. The only thing is, you have to die within 3 months of speaking your will. If you don't die within 3 months, then you should speak your will again. Unless you're in the active service, like in the armed forces or in the marine forces, and you die within that period of activity, then the will be accepted, even though it's longer than 3 months, even though you don't die within 3 months, okay? But for all other people, you speak your wishes, and you should have 2 witnesses, and you should die within 3 months. If you do not die within 3 months, it is important, then you have to state your wishes again. And if there is disagreement by your 2 witnesses or more on what the content, on what you said, then a 3rd witness or 4th witness will be required to establish what exactly you said. The other important thing about an oral will is that it cannot override a written will. You see? Okay. So that if you have a written will somewhere, even if you speak your wishes in a written will, that cannot override the written will. It's extremely important. Yes, yeah.
All right.
So that's essentially it about a written will. I mean, a spoken will, I beg your pardon. Yeah.
Judy, let's talk about spoken wills.
Okay.
2 brothers walk into their father's deathbed. It's in hospital.
Yeah.
And it's a family of 5 siblings. And they go and tell the rest of the siblings that Dad said we should inherit every other land, every estate.
Yeah.
How is that determined? How does the law treat that?
Okay, it's interesting that the law doesn't talk much about oral wills, but it does say that the witnesses must be competent witnesses. Under written wills, and we are going to be speaking about that, it says that a beneficiary in a will can be a witness, but if there are no 2 other independent witnesses, then that beneficiary will lose their bequest or their gift. You see what I mean?
Okay.
So if you use that analogy, then it means that these 2 brothers who come with the news that their father has stated his wishes and they are the beneficiaries will lose their benefit or the gift because they should not be witnesses to their father's will if there are no 2 other independent witnesses.
I see.
You
so
get
there
it?
needs to be
Yes.
other 2 who are not beneficiaries.
There needs to be 2 independent witnesses who are not beneficiaries. If there are no 2 independent witnesses, then you lose the gift.
So the other 3 siblings, in my analogy, are protected in that sense.
Yes, indeed.
I see.
Indeed. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Then let's jump into written wills,
Yes.
because that is, I think, what people mostly know.
Indeed. So written wills are just that. You write your will, and it doesn't have to have any format, but it is good to know that you need to make it clear because you're supposed to speak when you are not there. Okay? It doesn't have to be written by a lawyer. It doesn't have to be witnessed by a lawyer, but it needs to be witnessed. Your signature on the will needs to be witnessed by 2 competent witnesses. Then the law says that if a beneficiary under the will is one of the witnesses, then she or he will lose their gift under the will, and their spouses also will lose their gift under the will unless the will has been witnessed by 2 other independent witnesses.
What is competency?
So competence, first of all, is that you're sane, you're an adult of sound mind, because of course that's very important, and you're not suffering under the influence of something or other. Because to be able to witness because it by the way, it's important when the testator, the person writing the will, is gone, and there is doubt cast on the will, then the court calls the witnesses who are there. So it's very important that they know what they're doing. And the law says that those witnesses do not need to be there at the same time, okay? But they must have seen the testator, the person writing the will, sign the will, They must be able to see that he knows what he's doing. They don't need to read the will, okay? But they must see him sign. They must see him thumbprint if he's thumbprinting. They must see him put a mark, because there are people who may not sign. There are people who may not be able to put the thumbprint, but they can put a mark indicating their signature. And you may not even be the one signing, because supposing I was incapacitated in terms of hands, I know perfectly what I'm doing, so I can dictate my will, and I can tell you, Ken, sign on my behalf. Okay, that is also possible. So those witnesses need to have been there and seen me telling you to sign on my behalf to confirm that I knew what I was doing. And if they are not there at the same time, then I need to tell them that I told Ken to sign on my behalf, and that is Ken's signature. Meaning, if you are the two witnesses, I can be with you when I am signing, and Caro is not there. But it is enough if when Caro gets here, I tell her, I am the one who signed that will. So witness my signature. Caro should be able to know from how I sound and how I look as to whether I know what I am doing, you see. So she signs, okay, because I have told her I signed this, because I probably signed when you were there. So, but the ideal thing is to have both witnesses, or whatever number of witnesses you want, because you can have more than two, present at the same time. At least that's what I do, you know, so that they both see you sign, okay, and then they witness immediately. That's the best thing. But in the event that cannot happen, it is enough that the testator, the writer of the will, told you, this is my signature, I need you to witness it for me. Yes.
So day one, I'm witness number one.
Yes.
You sign.
Yeah.
You sign.
In your presence.
Now, day 5, Caro comes.
Yes.
And as long as you are in sound mind,
Yes.
then she can be the witness. And she can sign as a witness on
Yes.
that one.
Yes.
What if the person dies between the time the first witness signs and the second one intends or prepares to sign?
Good question. For a will to be valid, it has to be signed by the maker of the will and witnessed by two competent witnesses. So if it has only one witness, however competent, even if that witness was a judge or a president, it is not a valid will, because it doesn't have the two signatures. And that's why it is a good thing to have both witnesses together, because you know how life happens. You know, life happens. You know, you intend to get somebody tomorrow to come and the second witness, and they don't show up. So the best thing always is to have both witnesses together. Yeah.
Judy, let's take it back to the two brothers for a quick second. But this time, it's not a spoken will, but a written will. And so they are quite aware that they need the two witnesses. So they call the nurse and the janitor, and someone needs to sign this, right? So what's the validity of this, and can you speak more to that?
Okay, no, absolutely. So long as the witnesses are adults or sound mind, then they'll be accepted as witnesses. And so long as they either saw the testator sign, or the testator told them, this is my signature, please witness it, then that will be accepted. But the fact that people witness it, okay, there is competent witnessing of the will, is not enough to make the will valid. The other question that you must ask is whether the will maker was competent to make the will. Were they of sound mind? Had they maybe drunk a little more than they should, you know? Exactly. Were they suffering from such illness that took away their capacity to, write the will? So that is important. So witnessing, important, but also capacity of the testator or the will maker is important. Yes.
So what happens when a person is in hospital?
The fact that they're in hospital
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they do not have capacity to write their will.
Yeah.
I mean, I have been in hospital many times. I've completely had my wits around me, you know, but because it is likely to be suspicious, especially depending on what the person is suffering from, and also given our litigious society, it's very likely that those who are not happy with the will say the person was in hospital. Then what we tell people to do, have the doctor or have a doctor in hospital confirm in writing that the person knew what they were doing, and even better, witness the will. You see, to confirm that they had capacity to write the will. That's the easiest thing. By the way, a person doesn't even have to be in hospital. They can be home, and they can be, they can be, how do I say, they can be unwell, but home. Even in that case, if you think that there is likely to be a challenge about their state, because they could also be completely immobile. Their mental faculties could be very good, even though physically they're immobile. But if somebody is showing you a person who's being assisted or somebody on a wheelchair, later when they are not there, and they're telling you that this person could not have had the capacity to write the will, if you don't hear them speak, you are likely to be moved by that imagery, so to speak. Yes. So I would say that even in those circumstances, get a doctor to write a certification that though they were immobile, though they were suffering from this, they knew exactly what they were doing. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Wow.